Once again, it is Friday. Once again, it is time to deploy. Jim, how was your week?
Yeah, good week this week. How about you? What's happening?
All the things. We've done a few webinars already. We just announced our new worker for Kubernetes, so we'll be talking about
Yeah,
all
cool.
that. How's your team going?
Yeah, they're going well. Just churning through the features. It's been good. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we talked a little bit about stuff that you're working on, the reliable deployment stuff. So really exciting stuff
yeah.
last. Yeah. If you happen to catch that last week, or if you didn't, you can take a look at show 72 where Jim talked a little bit about that. So anyways, time to get into the news. So as I mentioned, the aforementioned worker has now been announced. So this is a blog post from Trent talking about the new Kubernetes worker that we have available for Octopus. And so this is basically dovetails or follows on from the agent that we announced a couple of months ago. But now we have a Kubernetes worker. And so this is basically, as Trent indicates, an extension to the agent that can execute any workload in a cluster, not just Kubernetes commands. And so he goes through in detail here the background of why we did it. Workers are sort of a way in which we do agent integration, for lack of a better term, via Octopus. A worker is just basically that. It's a piece of software that you can send commands to do work on your behalf as part of a deployment. And so with the Kubernetes worker, after the deployment is complete, the hardware resources get returned to the cluster. This lets the cluster repurpose or release them. So it's a really nice capability there. It executes every deployment task in a new Kubernetes pod known as horizontal scaling. More resources are automatically provisioned when there's enough pressure on the cluster. Then as work gets completed, the pods terminate. The additional resources are returned to the cluster, just as was designed by Kubernetes. So there you go. If you need to use it, there's a section here that Trent talks about, is this for you or not? Whether or not you need to use it. Now, the most important part is how do you install this thing? Doesn't take much. So Trent showed screenshots on what this looks like, how to install. It's very similar to the agent in many ways. There's just a bunch of Helm commands that you can run to install it. And yeah, away you go. So there's the new Kubernetes worker, which is fantastic. And we already had a customer of ours. This is Ben McPherson. Some quick math says that we've executed just over 500 things against the worker, now without a single config change to any of our processes. A drop-in replacement for our existing workers. Super impressive how easy this was. So we're already getting customers.
That's awesome.
Yes. I'm really keen on this. So just to on that note, there are a bunch of webinars you have coming up, and one of the webinars we have coming up next week is exactly that. We have Kit and Trent talking about the new Autoscaling /Kubernetes worker. So that's going to be on September 3rd. So make sure to check that out. And this is going to be basically the best way for you to get introduced into everything that's going on that side of the fence. So there you go. Speaking of webinars, we also have the Codefresh 101 third part, or final part of this series, can't talk. Featuring environments and promotions. You can register for that now. And then we have our 101 listed as always. So the worker, very cool stuff. I take it you guys are you guys using that on your side? Not really?
Well, no, we're not using it. I mean, they're pretty sure they're using it in our cloud platform, though.
We are, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Part of the reason why we built it, actually. So there you go.
yeah, totally.
Awesome. Speaking of webinars as well, we also have a recording of our recently run webinar. This was a couple of days ago. We had Pavel and Carrie talking to me about how we use Kubernetes for Octopus Cloud. So this is a webinar that talks about, basically why we use Kubernetes internally for ourselves, how we use it to run Octopus Cloud, which is the infrastructure we have for, obviously, Octopus Cloud, and all the bits and bobs and pieces that we use to go into it. So we were kind of like, this is how we built it. And, with the center point being around Kubernetes, we answered a whole bunch of questions as part of this, which was great. And so you can check that out. That is up on our YouTube channel now. So there you go. We also have a recording of the new Codefresh Chronicles. This one's talking about pipeline runtime permissions. So Laurent here talks a little bit about this. When you want to edit your pipelines inside of Codefresh, it was an all or nothing scenario prior to this new feature. So we now have a new permission that you can now enable. This is under the permissions area, which I think Laurent talks to that a little bit later on in the video. It's a very short video. It's a 5-minute video. But basically, if you want to adjust your pipelines you had to have basically near admin rights, and so now we've added this permission, so you can now run or execute changes against that, which is great. So lots and lots of stuff there. We've had also another innovation that Dan talked about here. He's our VP of Open Source at Octopus Deploy, talking a little bit about an improved promotion flow UI powered by ArgoCD. So this is, again, if you're wanting to see what changes are going into, so already available are these features here. Obviously, as a contributor to Argo, this is something you can check out. But if you're all curious of what this looks like, you can check it out there. Just a little post here from Dan on LinkedIn. Cool stuff.
Nice.
I know you like to deploy on Friday, right?
Of course.
Steve wrote an article here. Deploy on Friday. Moratorium doesn't achieve admirable goal. So improving your deployment pipeline. That's right. He's probably thinking of us. Steve sent me this yesterday. He's like, I'm like, I'll definitely talk about this. So improving your deployment pipeline reduces the risk of failed deployments overall, rather than choosing which day will be a bad day. Now, I know there are people who are going to agree or disagree that have reasonable cases, etc. However, I would argue that if you cannot deploy on a certain day, then you have a problem with your deployments. If you need people to be there to handhold each and every deployment, just in case things go wrong, things can go wrong, but if you have a deployment pipeline that's so brittle that you need people to manually resolve or reconcile those changes that go into production, chances are that's a symptom, not a cause. It's a symptom of a broken pipeline, in my view. And I don't mean broken by the sense of it doesn't work. It means it's a broken process associated with deployments. Would you agree with that or disagree?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Something else in the environment's not working for sure.
Yeah, it's also a symptom of a bad process, like not even technical aside. It's a bad process that if you can't deploy on Friday or you're hesitant towards deploying on Friday, then it's something to be aware of. Anyways, this is an article from Steve on the news stack. Sorry, did you have something else that you want to add there?
No, I was just saying, yeah, totally agree. I meant the environment you live in, not the environment you are deploying to. I realized as soon as I'd said it.
Yes. So Steve kicks things off by saying here, avoiding Friday deployments is driven by a goal that, while admirable, is better achieved in other ways, yet organizations are more likely to deploy on Friday than on a Monday, and he has data to back this up, which shows the industry doesn't quite buy the myth that you shouldn't deploy on Friday. Now, obviously, the name of the show is intentional, but we're advocates of you should be able to deploy any day, Saturday, Sunday. You should be able to deploy reasonably and reliably any day. And if you can't, and you need a spotter, using a gymnastic term, then you're not capable of doing the flip of deployment. And you should continue to work on your process until you can. And so Steve goes into the reasons why. The most interesting part of this is this chart here, where he basically, this chart here is a summary of over 32 million deployments and see what days they were taking place. And as you can see here, Monday is not that popular. Neither is Sunday, for obvious reasons. Saturday, interestingly, is up there, but it's the main four here: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that are the most popular days to deploy, and especially the hump day here, Wednesdays being the winner. But great news that is demonstrated that the myth of deploying on Fridays has little traction in practice. So he does provide some prescriptive guidance. Decide for yourself, but don't propagate the myth. Perfectly acceptable for you to deploy on Friday. And I think as a testament to this show name, we are big advocates of deploying on any days. But he also warns, don't just start deploying on Fridays. Take this as an opportunity to assess your situation, understand users and customers, and start improving your software capabilities, delivery capabilities. So thoughts on this?
I'm just wondering if we're going to have to change the show name.
No, the show name's fine. Right. I've invested too much in this. No. Deploy on Friday, I think, is I don't think it matters what day you deploy on, and you should have your pipelines and your processes should be robust and stable enough for you to do so. That's my opinion, but others may agree or disagree, and that's fine. So there we go. The joy. Anyways, we have some upcoming events. Next week we're going to be at KCD Sydney. This is KCD is the Kubernetes Community Days. And this is an event that's held around the world. Just so happens we have one in Sydney, so we'll be there. We'll be doing GitOps certifications, part of which we do. We'll also be at GitHub Universe, which I mentioned earlier, KubeCon, and of course Shipped is another event coming up. For KCD Sydney, just to highlight some of the things that we're doing there. So KCD Sydney, we're going to have our GitOps workshops running, and we're going to have 2 sessions, one by Costas and one by Rob. Costas is going to talk about master Kubernetes workflows and deployments using Argo Suite, and Rob's going to talk about from EC2 to Kubernetes takeaways from a brownfield migration. For those who don't know what brownfield is a term. There's 2 terms typically used, greenfield and brownfield. Greenfield typically means brand new application starting from scratch. Brownfield means existing application, migration, etc. That's typically what those mean. So this is what we're doing for KCD Sydney. We have other events as well, including Shipped. Don't forget, we have Shipped coming up. We're looking for you to speak. Submit your sessions now to Sessionize, which is up. We have a growing list of sessions, so feel free to submit yours, which is awesome. We have this article from. Okay, cool, good. I'm glad to hear you're going to be submitting. That's awesome. So Paul wrote this article entitled "Kubernetes Continuous Delivery at Scale: Business Lessons Learned." So this is for Forbes, and Paul is obviously our co-founder and CEO of Octopus Deploy, talking a lot about a term that we're utilizing quite a bit, which is Kubernetes CD, or continuous delivery. And the business lessons learned here talk about, how we approach things like developer experience. This is something that I think a lot of businesses struggle with. And the reason why it's a business problem is because of this thing called YAML fatigue. The idea is that if you have YAML files representing everything and anything around the shop, you're just going to have YAML everywhere, basically. And I think, we've had enough of YAML. And so there might be better ways to approach that. Deployment frequency can also be a thing to wrestle with. Risk management, obviously, as well. You can solve these by obviously improving your DX, your deployment frequency, and reducing risk through things like RBAC. So these and other issues. If you're at all curious as to what this is from a business perspective, Paul's got an article here up on Forbes for you to check out. And of course, it wouldn't be a Deployment Friday without a joke. So this is an homage to Parks and Rec, where Ron Swanson comes in. Do you have a history of any mental illness in your family? And to which Ron replies, "My brother built Kubernetes from scratch and runs it in production." So there you go. Always nice to throw a Parks and Rec homage there. And then finally, wrapping things up, we have another edition of Octo-pets. So I thought it would be cool for us to wrap up here. Yes, I know our dogs will soon be on here, hopefully at some point. But yeah. Anyways, Octo-pets. So first is Milo. Milo is the corgi embarks on mile-long runs, adventurous hikes, and agility courses. All the name to keep his figure so that he can have more treats. I am definitely a strong advocate of that. The only reason why I play sports is to drink more beer and eat more food. So there you go.
Exactly.
Braun, you caught me out. I didn't realize that Braun was featured. So there you go. This is a Foster
Braun, missing your moment, mate.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Braun?
Yeah, Braun, he's a rescue we got about a year ago. And he was abandoned. He was sort of given up by his family because he was too rough with their young children. But we've done a lot of work with him since to sort of train him, and he now plays with all of our friends' kids really well. So yeah, he's a very good boy.
Chief soft warmer. Next up, we got Bailey. This golden cloud is Bailey the golden doodle in the U.S. He was diagnosed with, I don't know what that is, as a pup, which means he has decreased mobility in the muscles. Okay. But he seems like a really good boy. So this, so Bailey reports to Lauren. And then finally, we've got Bowie reports to Tegan. She's a 2-year-old cavoodle who acts like Tegan's shadow. Who needs her attention, she'll bump Tegan's hand away from the keyboard with her head. That's awesome.
I'm glad to see that
I love ending on a high note. What's that?
I love that I like that you use the correct pronunciation of Bowie too.
Yes, that's right. Well, it's happening. I'm fully converted, right? So there you go. Awesome. All right, well, that wraps up another edition of Deploy on Friday. Yes, we do deploy on Friday. So anyways, if you happen to catch this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Till next time, happy deployments, everyone. Take care.